Welcome to Defense Briefing. The content of the briefing includes Javier Milei's perilous quest to make Argentina great again, caveman politics, Putin's Russia stirs abortion debate, Israeli venture capital deals slow sharply since start of Hamas war, Tuesday's time schedule, Israeli military, border residents press Netanyahu to eliminate Hezbollah threat, Javier Milei's perilous quest to make Argentina great again, Washington Post. Right-wing economist Javier Milei has triumphed in Argentina's presidential election, drawing comparisons with former U.S. President Donald Trump. Milei, an anarcho-capitalist, aims to dollarize the country's economy, cut public spending and privatize national companies, while abolishing the central bank. Milei's candidacy appealed to a younger generation of voters who have seen little progress after years of economic crisis and poverty. His victory is not guaranteed to translate into political power. He will enter office with few supporters in the legislature and no governors from his party. Critics argue that Milei's proposals for austerity and dollarization are a recipe for disaster. He has also expressed apologia for Argentina's military dictatorship in the 1970s and 1980s, leading historians to express concern for the country's democratic future. Caveman politics, Putin's Russia stirs abortion debate. Financial Times. Russia's turn towards socially conservative values has led to a debate on the issue of abortion. In the past 6 months, private clinics in 3 Russian regions have surrendered their licenses to perform abortions, while Crimea, which was annexed from Ukraine in 2014, has stopped offering the service. 2 other regions have brought in penalties for influencing women to have abortions. Pro-Kremlin chat show host Yulia Vidyazeva has defended women's rights and criticized fellow commentators who are taking Russia back to the Stone Age. The Kremlin has been accused of importing U.S. culture wars to distract the population from other issues, including the war in Ukraine. Some believe the anti-abortion rhetoric is linked to the need for more soldiers, while others argue that the focus on abortion is to deflect criticism of the war and population decline caused by the conflict. Russian officials have proposed a number of anti-abortion measures, such as removing terminations from the public healthcare system and limiting access to abortion drugs. Israeli venture capital deals slow sharply since start of Hamas war. Financial Times. Since the outbreak of hostilities with Hamas in October, the Israeli venture capital (VC) sector has experienced a sharp slowdown in deal-making, which has been detrimental to the country's tech industry. A total of $325 million in VC funding was invested in Israel in October, compared to $1 billion in September, according to data from local market researcher, IVC. There has been a slowdown in new investments since the conflict began, with some foreign investors delaying deals. The sudden lack of VC money will disproportionately affect Israel's status as a startup nation. Tuesday's time schedule. Associated Press. There is a full schedule of NBA games on Tuesday, including matchups between Toronto and Orlando, Cleveland and Philadelphia, Indiana and Atlanta, Portland and Phoenix, and Utah and LA Lakers. In college basketball, there are several top 25 men's and women's games, including Kansas vs. Marquette, Purdue vs. Tennessee, Duke vs. La Salle, Gonzaga vs. Syracuse, and James Madison vs. Southern Illinois. Notre Dame also has a game against Chicago State. Israeli military, border residents press Netanyahu to eliminate Hezbollah threat. Wall Street Journal. As the Israeli military tries to rout Hamas fighters in the Gaza Strip, there are fears that they need to deliver a decisive blow to ensure Hezbollah, the Iran-backed army in Lebanon, cannot launch a similar attack. Israeli military officials are putting pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to take action against Hezbollah. However, he is succumbing to U.S. pressure to prevent the fighting from escalating. Israeli officials estimate that Hezbollah has over 150,000 missiles, including hundreds capable of hitting precise targets. There are thousands of Hezbollah fighters positioned along the border with Lebanon, and fears are growing that they will cross the border, as Hamas did on October 7, to kill women and children. To ensure this does not happen, it is expected that the Israeli military will have to remove Hezbollah from southern Lebanon. However, Lebanon's civilians will pay the price as they did in 2006 during the last war between Israel and Hezbollah. The Israeli military is preparing for a war in Lebanon and has transformed northern border towns into unofficial military camps. McKinney scores 16 in San Diego's 67-59 win over Navy. Associated Press. San Diego defeated Navy with a final score of 67-59 in a college basketball game. Wayne McKinney III led the Toreros with 16 points and 3 steals, while Jimmy Oladipo Jr. contributed 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 blocks. For Navy, Mike Woods and Austin Benini both scored 14 points, with Woods also recording 8 rebounds and 2 steals. Utah special election for Congress sees Republican former House staffer face Democratic legislator. Associated Press. Republican Celeste Milei, former chief counsel to U.S. Representative Chris Stewart, and Democrat Kathleen Reeb, state senator, are competing to replace Stewart in Utah's 2nd congressional district. Milei is the favorite in the Republican-leaning district, which has not elected a woman to Congress since 2019. Milei is campaigning on border security, fiscal responsibility, religious freedom, and state control over federal lands. Reeb, a teacher, is campaigning on affordable housing, labor unions, and public education. Milei has raised nearly $600,000, while Reeb has raised half that amount. A Swiss Army knife for the skies, Ukrainian pilot races to get to grips with F-16 jet. CNN. Ukraine is training pilots to fly F-16 fighter jets to help it gain air superiority over Russian-occupied territories. Following months of lobbying by Kyiv, the U.S. committed to transferring 4th-generation fighter jets to Ukraine earlier this year. However, they are not expected to arrive until 2023, so pilots and ground crews need to complete formal training to operate them. Ukraine's aging inventory of Soviet-era jets is becoming increasingly dangerous for pilots, and the country's air defenses need bolstering to protect against Russian missiles and drones. The F-16s would be used to repel waves of drone and missile attacks. 1 dead, 3 injured in shooting at Ohio Walmart, local media. Yahoo! At least 1 person has died and 3 have been injured in a shooting at an Ohio branch of Walmart. Witnesses say the shooter was carrying an assault rifle and was described as a tall, young white guy carrying an army bag. There is no longer any threat to the public. A Gazan family, a premature newborn, a painful choice to stay. Washington Post. Amid the ongoing conflict in Gaza, images of babies in a hospital being removed from incubators and evacuated have been widely shared. However, for the parents of Anas Espida, they were unaware of their son's fate. Anas, born prematurely, was still in an incubator at Al-Shifa Hospital when the war began. The hospital, targeted in the conflict, was severely affected, leaving the babies in critical condition. While some were evacuated with the help of the UN, Anas and his family chose to stay behind, fearing for the safety of their other children. The article highlights the impossible choices faced by Gazans every day in the midst of the war. The Espida family ultimately refused to let Anas leave, expressing their determination to stay together despite the ongoing conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Javier Milei, your beloved economist from the 6 Degrees world. Today, I bring you a diverse range of news stories from around the globe. Let's start with the triumph of right-wing economist Javier Milei in Argentina's presidential election. He aims to make Argentina great again by implementing an anarcho-capitalist agenda. While his victory has resonated with the younger generation, there are concerns about his proposals for austerity and dollarization. Moreover, his controversial views on Argentina's military dictatorship have raised doubts about the country's democratic future. Moving on to Russia, the country's turn towards socially conservative values has sparked a heated debate on abortion. Some regions have imposed restrictions on the procedure, leading to criticism from those who believe it is regressive. The Kremlin has been accused of using this issue to distract the population from other pressing matters, such as the war in Ukraine. The motivations behind this move are still unclear, but it is evident that the debate on abortion in Russia is far from over. In Israel, the recent conflict with Hamas has had a negative impact on the venture capital sector, slowing down deal-making and affecting the tech industry. The sudden lack of VC funding could undermine Israel's status as a startup nation. This highlights the interconnectedness of politics and economics, as conflicts and geopolitical tensions can have ripple effects on various sectors. On a lighter note, sports enthusiasts will be thrilled to know that there is a full schedule of NBA games and top 25 college basketball games to look forward to on Tuesday. So, grab your popcorn and enjoy the excitement. Shifting gears, there are growing concerns in Israel about the threat posed by Hezbollah, the Iran-backed army in Lebanon. Israeli military officials are urging Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to take action against Hezbollah, but he is under pressure to prevent the fighting from escalating further. The fear is that Hezbollah could launch a similar attack to Hamas, and the Israeli military is preparing for a potential war in Lebanon. The situation is tense, and the consequences could be dire. In other news, San Diego emerged victorious in a college basketball game against Navy, while a special election for Congress is taking place in Utah's 2nd congressional district. Both candidates, Republican Celeste Milei and Democrat Kathleen Reeb, have their own platforms and are vying for the seat. Meanwhile, Ukraine is training pilots to operate F-16 fighter jets to strengthen its air defenses against Russian-occupied territories. The country is awaiting the arrival of these jets, but in the meantime, pilots and ground crews are completing formal training to prepare for potential drone and missile attacks. Tragically, a shooting at an Ohio Walmart has resulted in 1 death and 3 injuries. The shooter, armed with an assault rifle, has been described as a young white man. Thankfully, there is no longer a threat to the public. Lastly, the ongoing conflict in Gaza has forced families to make heart-wrenching decisions. The Esbita family, despite the critical condition of their premature newborn, chose to stay in Gaza, fearing for the safety of their other children. This showcases the difficult choices faced by Gazans every day in the midst of war. That wraps up today's news summary. Remember, the world is a complex place, and it's important to stay informed and engaged. Now, I invite you, my dear viewers, to share your thoughts and questions. What are your views on these news stories? Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.